this application is gonna be hitting four personas. One is your system administrator. Second is your subject matter experts in your organization, especially now think from the professional services mindset, right? And then third is your actual pre-sales or sales engineers, which is a persona. And then finally you have a project manager's persona, right? So all these personas are gonna be hitting this application. Mostly day-to-day people personas are gonna be the sales engineers and the project managers. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So with that, let me just quickly kick off and wanted to show you. So this is a multi-currency. So you need to have a multi-currency enabled, activated application in the system. So if you are doing business in INR, it supports it. If you are doing business in USD, it supports it. Any currency that, what does it mean is that any currency you work in, this is not limited to one currency. This, if you are working in any kind of currency business, this application supports it. The only thing that you need to have is you need to have a Salesforce Enterprise Unlimited edition, because I won't say professional because this is not an app exchange today, which I'm gonna be putting it by the end of this year, or maybe much more earlier than that. But for now, today this is for developer unlimited and that enterprise edition application. It is a huge application, so it definitely it has four applications in it within it, and then four sub application, then around 21 tabs, and then around 62 custom objects built on it. This application completely supports platform license. The only thing is you need to have at least one sales license in order to, because in order to have this app, because this application generally built to extend your sales cloud capabilities, but it does not restrict you all your users to have the Salesforce license, which is the most costliest license. You can have one license, which is someone who basically have salesperson having Salesforce license, and then rest of your team who is working on this QuoteX limited to the this platform license, which is the much more cheaper version to use the Salesforce platform. Okay, so very quick about this, and then we have, once you install it, you are you will be seeing, as an admin, you will be seeing these four apps being installed here, right? Now, because now I say you this pre-sales cloud, again, it's a part of Sales Cloud, so I named it pre-sales cloud, which is a very core user base application, which is a day-to-day application with your pre-sales team is gonna be using. This is pre-sales cloud admin, which is your system admin. Most of the settings are being controlled by system admin on day one, or maybe few more days, initial days, while talking to your stakeholders in your organizations. This SME application is for your subject matter expert, and this is finally the project manager. This application does not have much custom. In fact, no much UI customization. It is all like object system of records, the object structure that we use to have on the project manager center. I won't cover this today because this is like very native to use in Salesforce by having those object structures of the project and the there. But
Mhm.
I'll show you at the very last. Okay. So, quickly covering it, this is the first step. Your system admin will come in after getting installed, and they'll start setting up the application here. Now, this is I'm gonna be deprecating as we go on the app action, but till we are not on the app action, this key is provided by me, and then based on this key, your core components will work or not. Not so
Mhm.
serious, because once we go on app exchange, we are gonna be deprecating it. Fixed fee buffer. Now, these are some of the settings which your system admin is gonna be working with the your sales stakeholders or sales team members. Now, this application supports to build quotes and timelines for two kind of major models of building timeline. One is TNM, time and material, and another is fixed fee, right? So once when you are gonna be having fixed fee timeline or code built, you definitely, when we are doing a fixed fee, it's more risk oriented, so we always wanted to make sure that our sales engineers does not have to do it manually. It is automatically 20% buffer is automatically edited in your fees. So this is the
Okay.
all right setting that we are setting here, which is 20%. It could be anything like 17% as well, or whatever you want as by your sales team decision or sales stakeholders. While we are doing fixed fee, buffer, like increasing the fees, we are also increasing the cost as well, because in fixed fee we are targeting the niche capabilities in your org, and sometime attrition, sometimes some holidays, sometimes some unprecedented events could actually impact your cost. Right, you might need a higher price resource to be assigned to that project, and that's where we also wanted to uplift the cost so that our final sales margin is also very calculated. So we could also uplift the cost, because whenever a fixed fee contract is generated, this is added into your cost. Now think from this, per fees are fees, which is like the numerator, cost is a denominator, right? So cost is the cost you are bearing, fees is that fees that you are charging to your customer. ASM threshold, which full form is as sold margin. So there are two kind of margins. One is sales margin, the margin that sales people are dealing with, and then delivery margin, which is the margin that delivery the actual revenue or margin that we are getting on. So this application is targeted to sales. So we are not going to be talking about EDM. We are going to be talking about ASM, which is as sold margin, sales margin. So we also wanted to define a threshold because we for this application, a junior solution architect, sales engineer can also work very consistently and precisely. What we have here is provided we are going to be defining a threshold that, okay, if in your timeline you're getting this threshold, your ASM is lesser than this threshold, then it will show up a red. Right. So kind of a threshold that, okay, you always have to maintain for each deal, you have to maintain this threshold for the ASM sales margin. This is like some kind of automation and workflow. So we'll talk about this later on. Weekly capacity, monthly capacity, quarterly capacity, and yearly capacity. So generally in US, our weekly capacity is 40 hours, right? In India, in some organizations like Wipro, TCS, our weekly capacity is 43.75 or 44 point. This application supports two decimal numeric digits as well. For now, this is an org-wide setting. I'll come on that we can also have regional based setting, right? So for US, it is could be 40. For India, it could be 43.75 or 45. But this is an org-wise setting. So we are saying that, okay, our maximum capacity for a resource in a week is 44 hours, for a month for 160, for 80. And these are some of the settings, org-wide setting that we wanted to set initially. You won't get it today because unless you see it, see it real as a user. So I won't cover this, but this is allow you to do the refresh rate card. So your rates of resources keeps on changing. Like every year, you probably might to augment your rates, right? And
Yeah.
you once you have augmented your rates in the master rate card, you want your in-flight deals, all those new rates to be applied, right? Because you don't want to sell starting from January, let's say 26, in the previous year rate. That deal is still in progress, and you don't want to sell on the older rates. So this is a setting which allows you to automatically open up a button for your sales engineers, and then they will click it and new rates will get applied. And then some all of the settings here. Once we are done it, I won't cover this. This is like a UI based feature, so we'll talk about that later. But the core is that your rate cards, right? Rate card is the system, uh, is basically the center and heart of the system, whole system. Like we go into any restaurant, the one thing that we first ask your menu card, right? We always wanted to have a common rate cards to be defined as system. But now, if you have seen PSAs and other application, the beauty of these rate cards is that we can have unique rate cards per region, per practice, and per region, per practice, per account, and per role and per level. So basically, these are the four keys that, okay, you could have a rate card defined, then per currency. Sorry. So as I said, this is applicable to all currencies. So you can have rate cards. One, for instance, let's say you have a role in your system called developer. Right now, you have one rate card just for a developer, a common developer across all the. You can have a rate card developer India separately. You can also have a rate card for developer junior or developer management. All these are configurable, right? You can also have a rate card developer related to AWS, developer related to Salesforce, developer related to let's say Node.js, a developer rel to AngularJS. All these rates you can define separately, and you can also activate and deactivate these rates to be used in your timelines using those start date and end date feature, right? And you can also at the same time associate a rate targeted to a particular account. So for instance, if you've been into a staff work system, or we have a contractual relation, negotiated price with our ongoing or loyal customer, right? 10 years, 20 years, we keep on having those negotiated rates, not for the general rates, right? Discounted rates. So you can also define that, okay, this rate card is defined to a particular new account. So I'll showcase this use case to you while I'll give it demoing. And then you can have a bill rate for each rate role, and you can also have a cost rate for each. This cost rate for now is a system, it's just a simple entry, but you can, once you have this QuoteX installed, you can have your own new services built and have this cost rate calculated actually from your salaries and all these expenses that you compare, so that you come up with a cost rate, a general blended cost rate for a particular role, for a region, for a practice, right? This can be automated later on, but this is not a part of this application standard. Bill rate is the bill rate that you're going to be charging to the customer. Threshold is something another deep, as I said, that this will take another hours or so to talk about all those features. But this is, understand, this is the heart of the system. And when I say that it is gonna be a region, it is gonna be a practice, it is gonna be a account, right? So you can have those roles and rates. The only thing that once you are setting this rate cards, you have to avoid having duplicate rate cards. So when I say duplicate, that you need not to I mean, you shouldn't be having active duplicate rate card for a developer belongs to United States and belongs to Amazon practice in your organization, right? So just you wanted to make sure manually that you are not having, we are not bounding it by any kind of rules here, because we want you to, it will show up when you are going to be building timeline. If you have duplicate, it will show up too, and your user will get confused. So let's not have those. It's your job to not to have those duplicate rate cards here. As I show you, this region is here. Again, you can have n number of regions for which you wanted to have the rate cards, in which you are actually doing business and you have resources there. You can also have n numbers of practices within your organization, whatever the practices you work for. You can also have a resource or a talent being assigned with the particular skill, right? So for instance, we have JavaScript developer as a role. Let's say developer is a role, and but developer could be an Apex developer, could be a JavaScript developer. You can actually provide that skill into a rate card. However, it is not being considered into the uniqueness, but you can define as a primary resource skill, let's say JavaScript or whatever it is, or a kind of language, or
Mhm.
right. So this is, as I said, this is the heart of the system. This is the system. These are the rate card that needs to be maintained really rigorously and to be validated whenever there is an update. The uniqueness. Okay. The next is I've talked about region, practice, skills. Next is the external resource. Now there are many scenarios that you have, like say you have when you have won a deal, but you are a Salesforce boutique, so you have all the Salesforce roles. But in order to build a website, you probably might need to have a UI UX, right? And that is a contractual relationship you have with some of the vendors that you have, right? Now you are gonna be charging it to a customer, but you actually don't know the cost. So kind of these external resources, or maybe that the customer in the staff work model, project manager, release manager are from the customer side. You wanted to evaluate or calculate the total hours that these time in the timeline, but because these are not your costs, you don't want it to have those cost or rates being defined. That is where these external resources, now the name implies it automatically that external resources are the resources which are external. Now where are these gonna be used, I'll talk about, and you will easily, but just wanted to call it out very heavily. Nothing else. System of records, simple role name and the description for it. Description is necessary because when we are gonna be automated it with generative AI, we are using this description to apply that. Okay. Now, while we are selling resources and talents, we are also at the same time probably utilizing some tools. For instance, let's say GitLab for repository, GitHub, like paid GitHub, right? We are using it for paid GitHub for customer code base, and we are expensing it out internally. But for any kind of customer, we wanted to actually bill it to the all those expenses during the project duration. We wanted to expense it out to a customer. So, and some kind of other licensing fees or security application listing fees and all these partner resource, contingency budget, or all these things you can apply through the other cost. I'll talk to you. I'll talk about this when we'll be actually demoing it for the sales engineer. And then finally, as I said, this has an inbuilt capability of generation of document, and which is in this case is SOW, statement of work, right? Using this document templates, it's a feature of QuoteX. You can build the document template. Let's say that you have a consistent SOW template that you want all your sales engineers or salespeople to use while they have actually built the whole deal or code in the system. And using this, you can define your sections in the document and the dynamic city. Now, this is where you would need your developers or solution architects helps to actually define and design it, right? This is once you have designed it here or defined it here, uh, the document will get automatically generated based on what you have. Fine. This is dynamic, so you can have a paragraph, which is static, and then you can have a table type, which is dynamic, generating using the SQL query here, and then the whole config JSON, and then finally CSS style JSON that you can actually make it more. Okay. So this is another area where you would need an help for, an administrator would need an help for from their solution architect or developers or technical architects community. This is one-time activity. Once you are done for the rest 1 year until you change your SOW template, it's gonna be not needed to be modified or changed.
Mhm.
Perfect. So this is what the admin job is. Mostly one-time activity or periodic, like once in a year activity that they have to perform. So before I move into next quickly, any quick question you wanted to raise?
No, I think good. Mm, Well
All right,
structured.
perfect.
Yeah.
So next step is that once the admin has set up, which is a one-time activity, the next step is your subject matter expert, because you don't want your sales. Let's now think that your sales engineers are really junior people. They probably don't understand the Salesforce fully. They probably are just learning Salesforce. They are coordinators. You want your sales engineers, or I would call it coordinators. And you don't want solution architects to actually do these kind of operational activities on day-to-day job. You want solution architect to be with customer, build innovations, build POCs, and then have an hand-to-hand relationship with the sales people. What you want that all these operational activities can also be, I mean, I need a tool that can be done by the junior folks like freshers or something to whom you have trained for a month, and then they have started using it and responding back on the to the solution architects or sales people. So the next step, why we have this SME application? Because we really hate a build from scratch approach. What we love is that, okay, because we are a well grown organization, we have subject matter experts in our organization. Why can't we have catalogs that we can reuse, right? If it is a full blown bottom to top approach deal, we would want scoping and timeline to be done. If it is just timeline, we would want roles to be assigned automatically, which is my generic role for all 60% of my deal in my staffing contract model. This is kind of a role that we are sell. This is the at this rate we sell it. So all these things you don't have to build it from scratch. Just drag and drop from your library, and your job is done. So what is the use of solution architect in that? That's the reason we have this SME. So for this, every transformation project that you do, right? I'm not talking now, just leave staffing contracts, leave the staff org kind of projects. Now, just think from your mind for now. Just think from a transformation. So you're talking to a customer and you want to transform. So what you are doing is you are understanding their current challenge. You're also recommending them, okay, go with Azure, you go with Salesforce, go if you have CRM challenge, go with Salesforce or HubSpot. If you have micro, just go with HubSpot. All these are the answers that you're being a tour guide to your customer, not a taxi driver. So now being a tour guide, you want to understand their challenge and at the same time you are scoping those challenges into a solution. Now, when you are scoping those challenges into a solution, let's just assume that Salesforce is a system, and or maybe any other system. We have our SMEs, right? For instance, we have a Sales Cloud subject matter expert. We have a Service Cloud subject matter expert. We have a Agent Force subject. They have built their uh, they have built their scope libraries on day-to-day basis, or maybe a periodic a monthly review meeting happen between all those subject matter experts. They review it and validate those scopes that okay, are these still real? But they keep on defining those scopes. Now when it comes up, I'll walk you through. This is a library. So library has basically a whole bunch of items which has their related scopes underneath. Within their related scopes, they have the LOEs, right? Level of efforts. Now, level of efforts is not a vague level of effort. It also is related to the roles that would be needed. Now, there are multiple models that we support. You could have like all roles being defined, you're defining your scope, or you can have your core role like developer, which actually defines your scope and then you augment it by the sourcing plan template. So I'll walk you through, but for now, just quickly think this UI is similar to what the end user will be seeing doing their scoping and sizing. But just think that, okay, I have this scope library, account and contact management. In the account contact management, the first thing that we need to validate is the configuring the account object, then we defining the account teams, contact objects, then contact management. We have the description, assumption, LOE. Within the LOE, we know that what are the core role objects. So this is being defined just for developer. Now you know that into a Scrum, there is no just developer; it's a whole team. So I'll walk you through while doing a demo. But this is how the thing, the scope and scope libraries. You can also define multiplier category if it is an integration, then what kind of integration scope it is, and right, if it is strategy, you can also have internal notes because this is what something being dragged and dropped by the sales engineer in the application, and they are gonna be changing or modifying it or adding new to it, or they can also want to scratch it completely. You can also have like review status here while you're reviewing each scope. So for instance, let's say I'm an SME and I just find out, okay, our account team Salesforce has some changed something, right? So we need to review it. I just kept it here. Next month when we have that MBR, monthly business review, which is okay, account teams, what why this is being highlighted. Okay, so we had to review it, and then once we have reviewed it, we just mark it again green, and that's it. Right, so it means that we have reviewed. You can also extend some of the new fields using the Salesforce page layouts, putting those fields in here, and then you can extend this feature. Within this, we have feature called add from scope library. So I'll talk about this later while in the review. But the scope libraries, the libraries of the scope built by your subject matter experts and your sales engineers are just reusing them multiple times. What it helps is one is it keeps your scoping consistent. Second is they need not to have start from scratch. Third is that they know that what they are building for, and sometimes some items are being left in the scoping using these scope libraries, PDLs, or those uh, skipping items cannot be skipped, right? The chances that you are gonna be. Similarly, you have these timeline libraries, right? So when you have timeline libraries, I say that you have your timeline. When you work onto an Excel or a spreadsheet, you generate a timeline to show to your customer or send to your customer, right? Exactly. So for instance, my business is staff contract. Now leave the transformation thing and bring that staff org or staffing contract model. And then you know that for this customer, I probably have to give them timeline for every quarter because every quarter they has a review. They wanted to renew the contracts, right? For this customer, these are the 10 roles. we are selling it. This is the price we are selling it, and I just defined it for that particular customer. Okay. So next time when I go to a deal every quarter, I just quickly go and search into timeline library, the name of that customer and which library it is, just drag and drop, generate SOW, send it to the customer. Within 5 minutes, your job is done, which is usually done in a week, right? If you have an Excel template, you search for an Excel template, copy and paste it, validate your pricing is right, correct, right? And then finally manually generate the SOW, copying and pasting the things from your Excel template. So this is thing you can also define the travel and expense. So if it is a transformation project and you are on the side, or maybe you are sort of folks who are being required at the side, their travel details also be captured in the currency value that you are building. Finally, other costs. Okay, now we are working for, let's say, Morgan Stanley. Uh, right, uh, I think my connection is stable. Are you able to hear me? Fine.
No, you broke in between. Let's switch off the videos.
All right. Just a second. Just a second. Mm-hmm. Mhm.
It looks better.
Okay. Now, am I audible? Perfect. Fine. Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. Good.
Perfect. So this is the timeline library. The next step is a magic, right? This is a resourcing plan. And this is something that you probably might have not seen it anywhere or not have heard about it. This is something that I learned from a PDO, how we used to do the things, right, in Excel, but not an automated fashion. So what does it mean is that, okay, so when my SMEs, solution architects always think from an architect's perspective or developer perspective. So for building a particular page, let's say web page, a developer would take 40 hours. That's we know very clearly, right? The next supporting rules around it are the, because when we do a business, when we do a project, we don't only until it's a staffing contract, if we enter just transformation project, we don't only sell just developer. A developer can't be talking to a customer and building the thing. The developer can't be talking to a customer and defining the story, and developer can't be doing a testing. Developer can't be building the release plan. Developer can't be doing the release management jobs, right? Developer, if even if developer can, the project is not gonna be successful if you just want to. So that's where we have all the other roles to be included in, right? Now, this resourcing plan templates helps you. And now you know that how much time this piece will take by developer. But we don't know exactly how much time this piece is gonna be taking to a project manager or a business analyst or a tester or a whatever other roles that in a scrum is. That's exactly where what we generally do in our Excel is we take, okay, so if a developer is 100% assigned, at least we need a 20% of project manager, or maybe we generally need 20% of project manager or 50% of project manager, 80% of business analyst, 100% of tester. Like, so sometimes some projects, some products, you would need equal time of tester. You would need a releaser manager for a 50% for the later part of the application, something like that. Okay. So that's where you can have like various mechanism, but for now, I just wanted to show you that this is a resourcing plan template. If you see this resourcing plan template, this is says generally I use this way. There are many other ways you can give your own names like Express name or Kaizen Rise name, something like that. But it is easier for me that okay, I am spreading my role hours from dev to PM, BA, TA, TL, and QA in this plan template. And you can have n number of plan template, right? This is just one example. So what in this plan template, if you read it from a very general English, that okay, this is my derived effort, right? Spread effort, which what it means is that allocate 20% of developer of phase, right? If my developer is assigned of develop phase, 20% to test engineer, to test phase, and always, right? This is so basically a mathematic calculation here, but I think the
This is
easiest
excellent,
way,
man.
this is easiest way is that okay, PM 20% developer to from develop to project manager, right? So what does it mean is that we have one role, which is a core role of center of the whole Scrum, and now you're deriving the hours from your core role to support that core role, right? To the multiple roles that in this Scrum. Okay, with me so far?
Yes, yes. It's
All right.
amazing,
Perfect.
really.
So this is a resourcing plan template, very very efficient when we are scoping. We are working on a transformation project, and we are scoping, not specific to a staffing contract or staff work, but for the scoping, what the transformation. Now, there's another interesting thing here, which is a staffing rule. I'm not sure, but at Apperio, when we used to have a staffing rule call that okay, if there's a project you have assigned, because technical architect was so mature role and so much heavy in pricing, and we don't want to have that role super partial, right? When I say super partial, means that you can't afford to have that technical, because technical architect is a niche role. You can't have that role juggle in hours to multi, right? So what sometime a business rule says that I want to have a technical architect minimum required into a project at least 50% a week or a month or a quarter or whatever it is. So what does it mean is that when we define the staffing rule, that application is not yet built. This staffing rule has two mechanism, but this actually fulfills that. This is another add-on that I have built on top of it. But understand this, that okay, these are the staffing rules. This allows you to, and this the whole Cortex is a loosely coupled application. It won't stop you to do whatever you wanted to, but it will always guide you or highlight you with the red or all these kind. Like okay, you might be going wrong.
Hmm.
So this is a
Hmm.
loosely coupled application. This is not restricting you to this application's rule. You can build your own rule. You do anything that you want unless that application is broken. But these are the supporting rules, right? So this rule also helps you to come with a blended rate. Now you would have heard this concept called blended rate. Generally in India, we are not doing the things into a per role rates rule kind of thing, right? What we generally, if you remember MetaQ, we were all being sold at $19 per hour to
Right.
Aperio, right? And for Morgan Stanley kind of project, $25 per hour to Aperio. So we would have that blended rate. Now it doesn't matter that how much experience that person. So Sumit Mishra was also being sold at $19 per hour per meet, and Rahul Jain is also being sold at $19 per hour per meet, right? To a period. That kind of model we usually and still in India we usually work in that blended road model. Now a question generally arises whenever we go into a transformation kind of project. That first question customer asks that hey, how much it will cost to me? Generally, not, I mean, I'm not committing any but high level because I wanted to secure my budget, something like that. This blended role will also gonna be helping you in getting that rough order of magnitude. Okay, so just think from this staffing rule part. This staffing rule has two mechanisms. One is coming right. You don't need to build a timeline. You know the high level scopes, and it gives you a rough order of magnitude into a dollar value. And second is that it will also help you to adjudicate your staffing rules while you are building your timeline. Today, that adjudication process is separate add-on, second generation managed package, second which I am selling. There are another 12 add-ons, bigger add-ons. But this application does not have that education. If you want to get it built, you can get into a service model with us. So that's what the answer we could actually give to customer. But if you see that this as, let's say that I've given it that I, for this staffing rule, I have a blended rate for PM, BA, TA, TL, Dev, and QA role in USD, right? The currency is very important in all these wherever there is a rates and numbers kind of thing. So because this actually defines with what kind of currency deal you have. Okay, so what does it mean if you see this? We have this developer, tech arc, test engineer, project manager, right? And what say generally that okay, if into a project we generally assign a developer 100%, we assign 50% minimum, we assign 100% minimum test engineer. These are all minimum, right? And we also know we can also define a high level rate that we generally in USD dollar we sell to a developer. Now this is not specific to region. This is very minimalistic feature, but very, very helpful. When we are in US dollar, and we can also name it by region, right? This is could be, let's just think as that USA PMBA TLTL, right? Or maybe US India PMBA TATL, and then we can define the rates accordingly here, or we can pitch fill the rates accordingly. It says that it needs percentage allocation. Just don't think of, I mean, this is a separate feature, but for now, let's just assume that this is always going to be 100% or 0%, but percentage allocation is going to be deriving. So what does it mean is, when you have, let's say for this particular staffing rule, we have these rules. We have these percentage allocation generally into our timeline. And this is the calculated rate that we have taken it from the rate cards, right? And this brings us into a finally calculated, like the very simple mathematics, total record counts, and then sum of the whole calculated. What does it bring it? The total sum. And then when we divide it with the record count, based, because that is coming from the percentage allocation, it comes at that, okay, for this is a $60.36 RR is our blended rate. So now with me so far, sorry if I'm
Yes, yes.
making
No,
it
no, no.
perfect.
It's
Perfect.
perfect.
So $60 per blended rate for now. Now we are done with this SME application. These are something that you define periodically as your business rule changes, as your scoping reviews are changed, your timeline reviews are being changed, right? Your contract is changed with customer. You need one more developer for the staffing contract and all this thing. So this is an SME. SMEs are gonna be updating all these four things or modifying or adding. Regular. This is not an administrator job, SME, subject matter expert. Okay. Now these are the once you are done with this core first time, right? Your application, your sales engineers after a training of 2 hours are ready to go and kick start doing their dealing. Okay, so are you ready? Any question before we move on?
No, looks good.
Perfect.
Mm.
So now this is the your final application, which is a day-to-day application used by salespeople, project managers, sales engineers, solution architects, and sometimes some of the project delivery
Your
roles as
internet
well.
connection.
Uh,
Not.
is it is it okay now? Is it okay? Can you hear me?
Now it's okay. Just-
Uma, can you hear me now?
Yeah, looks like my internet is also having issues.
Oh, all right. I changed it to another hotspot. Let me just quickly validate it. If you can able to see my screen refreshing to another version, is it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Perfect. So let us just quickly go to one use case, which I specifically built for you yesterday, right? And considering that you are going to be selling Cortex and you are going to be working on services with your own team on that. Now, Cortex being a big application, and Uma, just keep on saying something so that I know that you are connected and you're able to hear me, right?
Sure, sure, sure.
So for instance, let's say that in my this is a pre-sales cloud, very small application. We just have leads. It's a more kind of a console application, but you start with accounts, opportunity, quote requests, and quotes. So let's say that Kaizen Rise is an account, right? And they wanted to have Cortex, right? And we are selling
Mhm.
Cortex to them. But since this is a huge application and they do not have a Salesforce system admin or uh, Salesforce system integrator, whatever we call it out. So they wanted to take help that, okay, I wanted to have Cortex, but you would actually need to set up it for me, configure it for me, and then good to go, give us some training, and then we are ready and we'll continue with that. We don't need a system administrator. Just configure it for once and our SMEs will keep on periodically. And if we need any other change to be done, we'll reach out to Kaizen to you, like me. Let's say Kaizen Rise is taking it and to me, and then
Mhm.
another contract will begin. Right? Very simple scenario here. So we have an opportunity, which is that installing and configuring Cortex. Again, this is opportunity we have done all those conversations and we are at the proposal and price score. Now, generally, when you're selling products, you go to generate a quote, right? But when you're
Mm-hmm.
selling services, do you think that the Salesforce CPQ is that efficient doing all these services kind of a thing? Not, right? So what you do is, and now being an organization, let's say that for proposal price quote, I'm a considerable mid-size kind of an organization, and I wanted to have, I mean, I have a team of sales coordinators, I have a team of pre-sales engineers, I have also a team of pre-sales coordinators as well, right? So there is a various queues in Salesforce, and everyone is doing this. So in order to, if you, for instance, like Kaizen has asked that, okay, give me how much cost it will take to me, right? That's the same question that you, if I want
Mm-hmm.
you to install and configure Cortex for me, how much time, guys? So what you, being a sales guy, you don't know it, answer to it, right? What you do is you would actually pass it on to your sales engineer or solution architects. So to do that
Mm-hmm.
job, you send a request to your a quote request to your sales engineers, right? For instance, let's say I just install, set up, whatever it is, configure Cortex, let's say. Okay, so what this means is you have, I'll not fill any other fields for now, just the interest of time. But what this has done is this has actually kicked a notification to a queue, right? Which is in this org, this is a scratch org, so I haven't defined that, but to a queue that, okay, a new code request is assigned to your group. Someone from that pre-sales engineers group will pick it up and assign this to themselves as an owner. Now again, this is a very free application. You don't have like visibility challenges, sharing rules here. It's just like a flow of application, right? So for instance, let's say Rahul Jain is in from that assigned this code request to themselves, and I've started working on this particular code request, right? Okay, I can also define that what is the type, let's say rough order of magnitude. Now, the question is asked that, okay, what is the being asked by the
Mm-hmm.
customer? These are pick lists, we can define it. We can also just define that what date we would need LOE, what date we would need a support, right? So after giving LOE, probably we might need support for more regions. So it's again management of your code request or pre-sales team. And I also define the description that install and setup of Cortex for Kaizen price. Perfect. Nothing else. I can also have a delivery review. Again, in this use case, it is not needed, but in a bigger scoping sizing, you would. Rest all these fields are read only. This is showing up because I'm a system admin running this page. Okay, now in progress. Then my next job, Rahul Jain is now taking take it over to actually create a code, services code, right? And I started my generating the code. Now see, and you'll actually see the magic of using those catalogs, right? Now I'm a junior. I probably might not know
Mm-hmm.
Cortex, right? But I've got this
Yeah.
assigned to myself like a support agent,
Okay.
right? So what so this is my code being generated. I said this is a console application, so you have all these applications. So I can also open up this in a new tab, or I can continue and do this into like a console application here. Perfect. So new tab, you can say the same screen here, but I'll run it as a console application. Perfect. So now
Mm-hmm.
the first step is I wanted to I don't know Cortex, I don't know install setup, but this being assigned to me. So what would the next step I do? The next step is not to start from scratch. Let's say setup. I don't want to start it from scratch. What I do is I wanted to see that if we have any library. Okay, so I'm lucky I got this library built by my SME who know Cortex and want to who share this library with. Cool.
Cool.
So what I've done is here, I just added the library, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it has told me that, okay, these are the pre-installation steps that I need to perform. These are the post-installation steps I need to perform. This is some of the configuration admin tasks that I need to perform, and the configure
Mm-hmm.
SME. This is all being built by SMEs considering all the basic previous kind of installation and configuration activities that they have done. Okay, if you have noticed, every activity has an R assigned. right? And it has a separate a role assigned. In this, when we are doing this, it is I'm not going to assign developer for setting this up. What I'm going to my SMEs want that we wanted to sell administrator role, not a developer, right? And for some of the critical activities like
Mm-hmm.
document templates, right, generating SOW, we probably might need a developer to have with some of the so-called queries. We might need a project manager to customer talk to customer what kind of template design they have and how they wanted to negotiate with the minimal approach. Solution architect to help us with some of the complex queries. Administrator to be able to configure the sections, and then business analyst talking to the customer, understanding it, right? So this is a way this is something which I am showing you without using the resourcing plan template, right? I'll
Mm-hmm.
cover up this use case later on, which is much more better, but this is a very simple use case, right? So what it means is that it would take 189 hours of all these roles together to do this job, right? Total 189 hours. I may also wanted to introduce a risk person, let's say 10%. So it says that okay, introducing the total, it introduced 206 hours to me, right? I can also go back to zero. Let's say that this is it won't take more than that. So let's just go with 189. Now remember, there was a question that being asked, uh, that's being asked by the customer that how much it would take to me, right? Now to answer that question, you
Mm-hmm.
probably have like remember that staffing rule, right? That
Mm-hmm.
okay, in a project I would
Blended.
exactly. So for blend, let me just I may have another blend like QuoteX blend rate, right? But for now, just for the sake of the interest of the time, I just take the blended. What it will does is, it will if you see this, this is a USD dollar deal and 189, and this has come up with that. Okay, with the blended rate, it would normally or generally will. So with this number, or maybe adding on some 10% risk, because I wanted, Oliver wanted to show that this is a rough order of magnitude. I'm not underquoting or underestimating it, right? So I just simply add, or maybe I can add 25% risk, and
Awesome.
right. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the amount that I'm going to quote to the customer. Cool. So customer, I say that okay, it'll take around $13K. That's it. Okay, customer heard it from us. They got it budget approved or something like that. Internally, they have managed. However, we don't care. Now, with that thing, you have a feature called add from spreadsheet. Now, add from spreadsheet is nothing. I'll just open up one thing. So if you are you able to see my screen? Another screen where I'm opening
No, no.
anything?
Mm,
Okay.
no.
So let me just mm, okay, this one. Okay, so can you see this screen now?
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't. Yeah.
Okay, okay, no problem. This was something that I downloaded from that screen as a template, right? That our customers
Mm-hmm.
would also do. This is sample data. So what I'll do is, okay, so for instance, let's say you're doing a scoping and sizing, and for the time being, you are doing it onto a spreadsheet because I think it is
Mm-hmm.
more easy to collaborate. And finally, you wanted to load that spreadsheet into and this is the template that we provide to customers and they can download. And for instance, let's just say that you are done with your scoping because your assumption, description, category, complexity, hours are the your native default hours, right? So in this case, just think from a developer hours. And then wanted to, you're done with this activity, you wanted to, okay, you wanted to move back. Now, are you able to see my screen back to that Codex?
Yeah.
All right. So now that I've done it, I remember that I have copied and pasted it as it says here, and now I'm pasting it here, right? So simply what, as I pasted it here, you'll see all your clipboard, the what you have copied actually being captured here, and you can basically move your scoping and sizing from native Excels to here and put it into your scoping and sizing record. So as I save it, so have been created
Mm-hmm.
successfully. I go to the scope size effort and you'll see that unless there is a data issue, it is being added here.
Mm-hmm. Awesome work, man. Awesome work.
All right. So now, after you are done with this, right? The next step, let's say that customer is saying, okay, let's go ahead, give me a formal timeline for this. You will come back here for that town you have built it. You wanted to know, okay, so this is the, I would need, based on the scoping and sizing I've done, I would need 362 hours of developer. Just on a second. Let me just remove the one that we have put it from spreadsheet, the dummy data. Okay, so perfect. All right, so I've removed it. Let me come back here and I think the correct hours. This is correct. Okay, so 236
Mm-hmm.
hours that we planned for installing and configuring QuoteX. And then you have this developer, which is 50 hours is the total need of
Mm-hmm.
developer. Now, remember how we draw a timeline, right? If we have a 50 hours of developer and we are working in, let's say, US, India, generally
Mm-hmm.
this is again automated. There's another add-on that I have built, which is automated timeline. So you don't even
Mm-hmm.
have to worry about all this. But for now, this is a Cortex application. So I wanted to talk about core. I built this application like PSA core and PSA add-ons. Similarly, this is Cortex core and Cortex add-ons. I'm talking about Cortex core. So Cortex Core, it gives you that, okay, you would need a administrator, business analyst, developer. The next step is what would you do? Generally, if my application does not allow you to build a timeline, we would actually copy and paste the things and put it into an Excel and build a timeline over there, right? But as a fresher, as a coordinator, or as a even experienced guy, you don't want to do that job and doing back and forth over emails and everything, right? You want as consistent, and you also wanted to have a consistent experience for your customers. So before I move forward, this gives me a highlight data. I'll come back on this. I can also see from the component point of view that, okay, post pre-installation steps, how much it will take, right? So it takes a pre-installation only take administrator. uh, I can also that, okay, admin configuring as an admin, which are the roles. It says project manager, these roles, right? And then by phase, I can also that, okay, I only have develop phase here because this is just a simple installation config. So all these things, I can also at the same time, let's say that I'm a fresher. Uh, I probably do not have much understanding, and customer maybe on a WhatsApp, my sales engineer says that customer would do all the admin activities themselves, or maybe do the installation themselves. They don't want us to get that control, right? So what we would actually wanted to do is that if customer is said that they wanted to do the pre-installation stuff, so we are not going to be charging them for this, right? Exactly. So why, and as we said, we are not going to be charging it. What we have done is we have made all these things inactivated, right? So which is basically, it has built my hours again and made the things inactivated for me,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can see that the hours, because it was just 5 hours, so you won't see much difference. But these activities being activated, look, 170, 180, it was 189 earlier, it was 184, now with 25%, 235 hours. So I can do this, and I can all at the same time, let's say that my understanding is that, okay, customer, which PSC user permissions that I don't know much about it. Let me just talk to that SME, and I know that SME is, let's say, um, Rahul Jain. Let's say just Rahul Jain. This is a scratcher, right? Can you help validate this for me? Perfect. So
Mm-hmm.
I just send it to a chatter. Maybe Rahul will take it up. He'll get it this link, this whole thing into email. By clicking on this, he will come on this page, and he will find that this particular scope is already highlighted for him to validate,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
I just validated it. I like it looks fine to me. Probably I may want it to have like a, now I think this process has become more complex, and based on my experience, let's charge 8 hours to customer, not 4. Okay. So I made this change. I made this change, applied it, whatever it is, and I also go back to the same application and comment that I added 4 hours, something like that. Planner, right? So I did that.
Mm.
I come back on this application, and that comment has reached out to me as a sales engineer. I come back, I just validate the same basically the same item. So I clicking on it, I validate the same item, and it says that 8 hours. Okay, so 8 hours, I quickly just click on apply.
This is
It is
awesome.
now this is now 240 updated. Right, so my job is done. My scoping sizing is now freeze, right? So it's being reviewed, validated by delivery SME, whatever it is. The next step is, which is gonna be much more really interesting, right? The next step is building the timeline. We don't want you to move to the Excel or spreadsheets of the world. Let the Excel and spreadsheet used
Mm.
by accountants, not by solution architects. Let them use it.
Mm.
You continue your job on Salesforce. Now, when you are gonna be building a timeline, you are gonna be having two modes. One is taking help from what SMEs have built, right? So probably you may consider that this one, I mean, just for an example, this one is that some SME has built a configure for install of QuoteX and setup and installation, right? So let's just we are using it directly from the library. So because I'm a fresher, I probably might not know. I just found this. Okay, this is
Mm.
install setup configuration, and this has basically built a timeline for me, right?
Wow.
Which SMEs have done, right? What I would do without moving anywhere, this is generally that SMEs build. My next step is go and build the SOW
Mm. Awesome.
and maybe make some changes or something if I wanted to. Otherwise, download it as a PDF or a Google Doc. Generally, download it as a Google Doc, move it into a Google Doc, upload it as a Google Doc, and make those changes from legal, finance, or approvals, and then send it out. This is a very minimalistic feature, just to help you or help customer not to manually make those changes. Take all the
Mhm.
data from the system, download it, and then just do your job on the Google Docs. But I also have another add-on, which is an advanced features, which will allow you to do all these things here. At least saving it here. So the next time you come, you make see all those changes here. But right now, this is just a downloading as a Google Doc, taking. So now, if you have noticed, it has all those scoping added, right? The sections and
Mhm.
documents. You have some plain text like HTML that we have layer. What is my PSC responsibility? What is customer responsibilities? If there are any data migration, what is my responsibility or a customer? All these things, right? And we have added these roles. As I said, remember I have mentioned in the rate cards that okay, we also define the rate description, right? Or responsibilities. So it is also coming from rate card. For sub developer, we have this description. For probably another AWS developer, we don't have. And staff hawk we don't have. And then finally it comes as the total fees, which is what are the roles that we are going to be selling in this timeline, what is the total expense. This is just a example that I've shown you directly coming from the timeline library. So let's just
Mhm.
not use it because this is not original, basically not matching with our scope. So I just made it inactive, or probably I let me just quickly delete it. Okay.
Mhm.
So for
Mhm.
this code, I wanted to build a timeline that actually being guided by the scope. So let's say Cortex. We are over 14 minutes. So okay now for another 15,
Okay,
20
okay.
minutes.
No
Okay.
worries. Yeah.
Cortex configure and setup. Okay, so this is I know that 50 hours of developer. So probably if I have 40 hours of developer, it won't be just 1 week of time. It would take more than uh 2 weeks. So I'll say that my week starts, and generally this application only supports for if you are building on weekly, it supports that Monday is your first week, right? So Monday is the first day of your week. So you only have to. So if you select Sunday, it won't allow you to do it manually. But it also supports you
Mhm.
to build the timeline weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly. Now think from the enterprise level. Enterprise is having 10 years of contract. So they will go with the yearly, right? Uh, some of the enterprises have their quarterly contracts and some of them have monthly contracts as well, like 52 months or something like that. For this particular job, for this particular scope, we wanted to finish this. Like it's not more than 2 weeks. Like if an application is taking more than 2 weeks to set up and configure, I think there's something to think about, right? So let's say the week is, and my customer is going to be purchasing by the end of June. So probably we might have to start from the July 30th, right? And it's gonna be a 2 week. This TNE is travel and expense. I haven't spoken much about it. I'll talk about this. Then cost impact is if you have think about the cost of GitLab licenses, yeah, external resource licenses, oh sorry, partner resource or contingency budget. This is the cost. Travel and expense is the travels that any resource is doing, and ASM is that if we uncheck, it will basically from numerator and denominator, it will remove the TNE, so it won't impact, right? So sales margin. Similarly, cost is that
Mhm.
we are bearing, it won't impact. And then TNE, so we have two options. One is that you can just roughly type in, okay, travel and expense 10,000. Every deal, whatever it is, travel and expense $10,000 or $2,000, whatever. But if you also wanted to allocate travel and expense per resource, that for the transformation deal, my project manager is in the US, rest of the team in India. My project manager has to travel to customer all 5 days, sitting with the customer. But weekends, that PM comes back to the is home or whatever is in US, right? So there's a travel component needs to be also considered. Otherwise, if you don't have this in captured here, probably this is general nomenclature. Probably our PM will not either work on this project because they want to, in US, it's a culture. 5 days work from office or from customer office sitting in, and 2 days come back with your family generally, right? Or either if your PM is gonna be there and doing a weekend, you will lose this deal with a huge margin, right? Compromising your margin here. So just very high level, the why TNE detail view and why it
Mhm.
is there. So I know that this is gonna be taking 2 weeks. So I have two contract types. As I said initially, we have TNM and fixed fee. Now this is neither a fixed fee because we are basically uh, we're just we know that what we are doing, so not much rest. So we are not gonna be introducing XP, but I'll walk you through what XP will change. We are considering this is a TNM capacity, or maybe consider this maybe let me just take it fixed fee. But for TNM you can take consider that as a capacity model, basically staff ox, or TNM as a staffing contracts, right? So you sell it, but you don't want to add a buffer, right? In the staffing contract, $19 per resource, $10, $20 or 20 resource, 30 resource, but you are not seeing a risk here, right? Customer is actually asking a resource from me. There is no much risk unless there is another component that need to add as a contingency budget in case that one of the resources leaving, you have to hire another one on the hire job. That's a contingency budget. This is other cost, but you don't want it to add a fixed fee buffer on it, right? So in that case we take TNM. In this case, let me just start with the fixed fee and can change it to TMM. uh, I started with fixed fee. The only change between with the fixed fee and the TNM is that in fixed fee you will get added with the fixed fee buffer, and in TNM you won't be get it added with the fixed fee buffer, right? In TNM, sorry, in TNM you won't be added with the fixed fee buffer.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
All
Let's.
right. So now the next is I can assign the phases. So for instance, let's say my first phase is
Mhm.
define, my another phase is design, or maybe something like that. And I can have any n number of.
Mhm.
For now, let me just make it, because this is a very simple thing, configuration install. It takes me, I need to timeline 230 hours. But
Mhm.
for what resources? For these resources, right? So what I'll do
Okay.
is admin. Now I'm going to walk you through, now it's going to shift it a little more here.
Mhm.
Now I have two rate cards here. One is my internal rate cards with a higher rate, and
Mhm.
another is the negotiated rate cards that I had with Kaizen Rise, right? So Kaizen Rise is my regular
Mm-hmm.
partner. I've been with them, so I'm gonna be selling them with a one negotiated or discounted rate. So what I'll do is, and this because this in this deal, because this deal is under the account Kaizen Rise, right? If you see this, it has an opportunity and it belongs to an account called Kaizen Rise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just and because it accounts for I mean it has account called Kaizen Rise, you are basically seeing a solution engineer or a sales engineer basically seeing this if they are not using timeline library,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I let me just open it into a new window so that we have. All right, so administrator, I can use Kaizen Rise. I can use, so for now, let's just think that administrator. I can quickly just to help it out, business analyst, developer, project manager. So there's a feature called automated timeline, a smart timeline, which I built as an add-on, which is a second generation managed package, which works as a top on. In that, you don't have to do this manually as well. You just click, 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 3 clicks, and all the timeline is being generated there. So
Okay.
administrator. Now remember, I mentioned you initially an org wide details, right? In the
Mm.
org wide details, you initially that okay, if it is a week, right? It is
Mm.
44
Allocation.
hours. It is 44 hours. It is a month. It is 1 cent, right? One instant like that.
Mm.
Now, administrator, generally we allocate 100%. So I'll allocate it. Probably business analyst is 30 hours, it says. So I can do it like this as well. 15, copy and paste. I maybe copy and paste. Well, let's say I can do this like this as well. Sorry, I copied 44. I can do this like this as well, or I can go ahead like it
Mm-hmm.
supports majority of features that you have in the spreadsheets, right? Or I can go ahead with the let's say I just start with the 100 here, right? So business analyst is $30. So sorry, 30 hours, and I need to have this 30% only, which is sorry 30 35%. Okay, so I think the point here is that we as a
Right.
sales engineer, this should be not read, right? But if this total justifies the thing, then we can
Mm-hmm.
actually decide together as a delivery review. So 88 is 40, let's say.
Why it is coming red? Not
Yes, because your total needs in the scope, we planned
okay.
this role for administrator 92 hours, right? If
92.
you
Okay.
right, but in
Mm.
the actuals, in the timeline, we are only allocating the 88 hours. So what
Mm-hmm.
it means is that you scope this role for 92 hours, but you are only allocating 88 hours to the scope, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Because you are
the
giving timeline of 2 weeks,
yes,
and
or
in
maybe
two
no,
weeks, 92 hours.
exactly.
Mm.
And I can no, no, I can actually make this 45, 45. It doesn't much
Yeah.
matter, right? It goes till 250% basically, 250%. Or you can also have this like, okay, 92 is
46.
47, 40,
Yeah.
46, right? So something like that. I can make it like I said it's very loosely coupled. You can make it
Mm.
to match it. It is generally a decision. Okay, administrator, we don't want to sell it. I wanted to keep it stuck to 2 weeks only, right? So we don't want to sell it over
Mm.
100%. This is not a good impression that we wanted to make,
Mm.
right? So what I do is, okay, here it is okay. I can basically have this increase, like say 27 hours of developer, right? So developer would actually compensate the hour, something like that. All these are permutations and combinations I can do,
Right.
right? And then I have this project manager, which is 10%. No, sorry, 20,
One
22%.
feature suggestion here.
Yes.
जो आपने टोटल नीड और टोटल एक्चुअल दिया है ना,
हाँ हाँ
इसके बीच में एक कॉलम और ऐड कर सकते हो आप, विच इज डिफरेंस.
Variance.
वेरिएंस,
Okay.
डिफरेंस
Uh,
डिफरेंस नॉट वेरिएंस, जो प्लस माइनस आएगा।
हाँ
तो जैसे जैसे आपका 88 आ रहा है, तो वो वेरिएंस ही कहोगे आप, -4 आएगा वहां पे। राइट।
हाँ
एंड नीचे टोटल वो जीरो होना चाहिए वेरिएंस। जब वेरिएंस जीरो होगा तो इसका मतलब आपने उसको बैलेंस कर लिया
हाँ। नहीं नहीं, ग्रेट आइडिया, आई थिंक विच इज डेफिनेटली वैल्यू। ओके, सो आई थिंक ये मैं आपको एक बार वापस से दिखा देता हूँ। सो वी
है।
आई मीन व्हाट
गुड।
आई सेड इज you always need not to go by this.
हम्म।
What this means is that this is giving you a guided experience based on the scoping sizing you have done.
राइट राइट।
It doesn't mean that you always have to be stuck with what total need was. It
हम्म
helps you if you are novice, if you don't know that how many hours. Generally, I know it, so I know that okay, administrator, I wanted to have 100% of administrator always. Business analyst, I can also divide that. I never wanted to have less than 50%. Developer, I always wanted to have 100% of developer, whatever it is. Maybe project manager, I can do 10%. A solution architect, I can do, let's say, because it's a very superior role. I just wanted to have whenever there's a need, it occurs. So I wanted to sell it like this, right? I just wanted to make sure that I am not
हम्म
underselling here. By looking
हम्म
at this window, I wanted to make sure that I am not underselling here, right? So because
हम्म।
if I do underselling, it impacts this ASM.
राइट।
You can see that this is sorry, ADM, because
यस।
as a salesperson, we could go and sell anything, and we can go with any ASM, but actual revenue is ADM, actual delivery margin. So
हम्म
that's why this is just a guided experience that you can use and follow it up through. We have another feature called this managed rate card. So as I said that I can basically have those rates. For instance, that in the background in the rate card, by the end of the year, the rates has changed. And this is the in-flight rate, right? In-flight rate card or
हम्म
deal that is going on. So
हम्म
I can just simply refresh, click on simply refresh, and all my rates and list price are
हम्म
are automatically gets updated, right?
हम्म
Uh, I can tell you that this is basically TNM, right? So in TNM, I mean, there is a feature called we can have discount at both times, and right. But for now, let's just think that okay, I am selling. I can do the discount as well, right? So I can sell this
हम्म।
with 40 per hour
डॉलर।
rate. I can also apply a discount at whole level as well, right? So what it does is
हम्म
it actually tells me this. The thing is, my ASM threshold, till the time my ASL threshold is showing green, it
हम्म
I have no issues that it won't get approved in the approval cycle.
हम्म
But it is red, I might have to provide so many justifications that why it is red. Probably customer is so choosy, customer is not accepting our rates and all this kind of thing. I can also define the travel and expense, as I said, that probably my manager, I can basically make this arranged so that it looks more
हम्म
understandable by the rules. Okay. So probably now my project manager, I wanted to have this as US, and this will gonna be having a cost of $200, let's say, living nearby.
हम्म
And I wanted to charge it billable, right? So I'm not gonna be keeping it unchecked. This is making it
हम्म
billable, so you'll see that the net fees has increased and my ASM is also changed. Total cost, I also wanted to have a license, or let's say this uh, AWS, let's say something like that. AWS license, it's $50 per week, let's say something, or maybe one is $100, that thing,
हम्म
right? Or maybe I wanted to add a contingency budget. Now, contingency is something that is not a cost today, looks to me, right? I don't know that it will a cost or not,
हम्म
but I am going to be charging it to the customer upfront so that I manage this in the billing. Customer is paying
हम्म
for that contingency budget, right? But
हम्म
probably I know the cost is some kind of thing. I can actually say that okay, 450. So 450 into 450, and then finally I make it again 450. So which is matching. But as I said, I wanted to have like some kind of percentage calculation of tech fee, right? Tech fee or contingency fee, percentage calculation from the overall, and I wanted to apply it here. So I can do that here as well. You'll see the net fees, discount amount, everything is I've updated. I
Mm.
can also define the project plan. Now, this is for not for the smaller projects, but you can have like
Mm.
payment schedule. You can have like 50% first week, 50% second week, something, or maybe sprint schedule, uh, sprint one, sprint two. Again, as I said, project manager
Mhm.
or
Mm.
someone can color code it and download. And this, if you see, there's a huge list, then it will look much nicer.
Yeah.
Similarly, you can chatter it with your internal, get it reviewed. You can also manage rate cards. This you can refresh it. You can also download everything into a XLS format,
Mhm.
right? I think my window won't be able to show this, but
That's
all
fine.
resources, travel expense, other costs, project plan, all these can
Mm.
be excluded into your Excel with all the numbers and all, and you can play it out and show it to your customer, right?
Mhm.
Make changes
Mm.
and show it, send it to a customer. Also, we don't want to go to the Excel or spreadsheet mode, so we have introduced a presentation mode. Now,
Mm.
while you're talking to a customer, you'll see the all the compromising numbers that we don't want to show, like cost rates, right? All will get hidden automatically. And you are talking to a customer, you can saying that okay, this was the scope, and right, so you are not this is my total average cost, and this was the scope that we have built, and this is the timeline that we have built. All the sensitive data is hidden, right? You can show it to your
Awesome.
customer.
Mm.
You can show these are the resource. Customer say, oh, you're charging too much rate to me. Okay, you make a note for it,
Mm.
and then later on, when you're off with the customer, you can basically make that change in the rate, and you can maybe apply. Let's say customer is saying that I wanted to have a rate of 90%, you can just apply 90%. Validate your have an you reduce the discount, validate you have a favorable SMA, and then again you can go with the next call with the customer or download into an Excel and send it to a customer. But now, as customer said, I need only 90, I won't be able to pay more than 90, so your rate is 9, and then this is the 90 fees. So
Mm.
you can, and you can, or maybe in the behind the scene, some other team member has updated it and asked you to refresh it. You refreshed it, automatic updates are here. So
Awesome.
it can be done on the same meeting or can be later on. It's just that need of another resource to do. Now that you have done this, let's say that we have meet is, remember that we there are two things that we need to consider is that one is that this number. So this is something that we have quoted initially to the customer, right? And this is something that we have come up with, right? So probably we may want to adjust this because we know that this is so simple thing to configure and stuff. It's just that another earning thing for us. So we may have another developer, or maybe let's say I mean, right now in the rate card you won't see, but we may have a developer from India, right? And
Mm.
that India developer cost is $19.
Mm.
Instead of this, so this will come up to the one that nearest to the one that we have quoted to us. Otherwise, it is
Okay.
okay. Otherwise, it is okay. We can discount it much here because we are not putting the overall discount. Let's not put the overall discount, and we can simply just have some more discounted price. Let's say this, uh 90, 50,
Mm.
90, right? And probably this will come up to nearby this, or I can have 85, 85, 45, 35, 85. Okay, 15,000. So okay, so this can be 65, 65, let's say. Hmm. 65. Which one is the major? Okay, 30. Okay, so
Hmm. That's fine. That's fine.
that's right. No, no,
Perfect.
you understand the glitch here. Okay, we can actually go by this. The only thing that we have to validate is our ASM is not going down.
Yeah.
The reason
Ah.
is you'll see that you have a cost. This is the cost
Mm,
that you are. These are the real costs that you are bearing per for a role per hour, right?
mm,
You
mm.
can't go below that. Number one.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
have noticed that we are ASM, and there's another is that company wants to earn at least 47% from per day, at least at the sales cycle.
Mm,
So this is the that you don't want them to go below this, right? So you have to play. This is the art. How you can add a developer from India,
I
add an
can see.
administrator
Yeah.
from India, and then get that
Mm,
$19 a rate, and this will come up and match it, right?
mm,
You have the presentation mode, everything, and now finally, if you see, if I you can have the code summary. So let's say that this is the summary. Once you are done with this, you are reviewing it with your customer or with your internal delivery reviewers. They can come on this screen. They can, okay. Generally, there is a rule called that I can't have less than 5% assigned to a project manager. So they'll ask this
mhm,
question to you, right? It shows up that how much out of total 100%, how much roles percentage of role. So looking at this, you can easily analyze that, okay, what my staffing rules are initially manually, right?
mm,
And you can validate it here from, because from the numbers you won't be able to identify the how many percentage hours. uh, and you can quick clicking on it, come here, make those changes and get it done, right? It's an art. It's keep on going until you finalize and get it approved. And then you can also have a quote history. So as it is a console app, you can have all your streaming captured here, where what is being created, what is being until unless you, I mean, for the things that you have the feed tracking enabled, there is a system. And then finally you can generate the SOW. Okay, so before
mm,
you generate the SOW, so let me show you. Once you're done with this, right? Remember we started with the quote request. So I need to make sure
mm,
keep on changing the quote request status updated, right? So for instance, I just made it quote review requested.
mm,
Behind the scene, this is something not internal to QuoteX, but you have an approval process. You can build it at the status of quote review request. You lock these records, right? And then our approval being sent to the delivery reviewer, finance reviewer, right? They can come and validate everything, all those numbers, and finally, and finally send it an approval to you. You go to the customer, present it, customer says that this looks okay to me, you mark it, quote approved, right? And then maybe customer
mhm,
rejects it, you can also quote rejected, you can also have proposal breaks, or you can have your own new fields here. But as you see the quote approved, all those data and everything. Now the beauty of this application is, right, you can have, so for instance, you once you are playing with it, right? So as you are playing with it, sorry, I made it approved now. Let me just make it in progress again. Okay,